I am Mary Cornish, Chair of Ontario's Pay Equity Coalition. This is an open letter to Premier McGuinty. Premier McGuinty, this is the 60th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is the day women around the world and others mark the progress that's been made, but also point out the human rights violations that continue to exist. And in Ontario, there is a massive human rights violation which exists. It is the 29% gender pay gap between men and women, that women continue to earn substantially less than men, and no actions have been taken in the last year by your government to do anything about that. We are looking at the UN at this point as a vehicle where we will proceed to file a complaint if action is not taken by your government. You see behind me a flag of the United Nations. This is the flag that women look to around the world for help when their own governments do not protect them in relation to the human rights that world governments back since 1948, when the Universal Declaration was passed, have in fact set out agreements about how gender equality and human rights must be at the forefront of government actions. The UN over the last years since 1948 has passed many different instruments, all of which in their provisions talk about the importance of ensuring women's right to equal pay, to having the same access to jobs, to high-paying jobs, the same access to protections throughout the economy. And in all of these instruments, they have set out words like governments should use maximum available resources. Governments should regard this as an urgency and priority. And yet over the last year, we have called to your attention this problem in Ontario. It's the 20th anniversary of Ontario's Pay Equity Act. This was an important time for your government to consider how it was going to rectify this pay gap, which has stalled for many years. And yet, in many letters that I've written to you personally and also to your ministers, we have not received any action from you about how you are going to address this gap. For many, the UN should be a resort which is only taken when governments don't carry out their responsibilities. We are giving you one last chance to try and carry out your responsibilities. And if you don't do that in relation to this problem, we are putting you on notice that the Equal Pay Coalition will file with the appropriate treaty monitoring bodies at the UN a complaint that you are violating and your government is violating the international human rights standards that it is sworn it will abide by. And we will do this and call on those bodies to sanction the government and to sanction you for this lack of compliance. We had hoped that this action would not be necessary, but think again of the problems that we are facing in Ontario. We have a fiscal crisis, and women are now entering that crisis as a result of your government's inaction, with 29% less money than men every week in their pocketbooks. In their communities, they don't have this money to spend. Poverty is still a very widespread problem in Ontario. Your government is to issue a poverty reduction plan shortly. We are looking to see pay equity as one of the main measures that you use to redress poverty in Ontario, because women are the face of poverty. 42% of elderly women are poor. Racialized women have a much higher gap than white women. Their gap is 36%. Aboriginal women, the gap is a shocking 54%. These are unacceptable facts, but they are the reality of women who live in Ontario. Pay equity is a human right. It is a right which isn't something that's to be negotiated, that's to be said that it only happens in good times. It is a right that must exist in good times and in bad times. And we know that in Ontario, when we had substantial surpluses over the last number of years, there was still inaction on the part of your government. So now we are in a fiscal crisis. This is not the time to say we can't afford pay equity. Pay equity is especially important in those times. The World Bank, the World Economic Forum, all of these institutions have said that ensuring gender equality in remuneration is critical to an economy's productivity, to ensure that all of its members who are important to the economy are paid fairly. The Toronto Dominion report last year, they issued an economic report pointing out that women were the future of Ontario's economy and pointing out the pay gap. So this is the reality that you face, and it is the reality women face. And we want to be very clear with the government that action must be taken. We are calling for you to bring in immediate action and legislation to increase the minimum wage to $10. This is a pay equity down payment to very vulnerable women who predominate at that minimum wage level. We're asking you to increase and put back to where it was the funding of the Pay Equity Commission and Pay Equity Tribunal, which was cut by the Conservative government and then put back, or not put back rather, by your government. We're calling on you to fund properly public services, because you have, even after charter challenges were necessary to force your government to fund those pay equity adjustments properly of those providing public services, the government has again stopped doing it. So these are the kind of immediate actions we need to take place, and we need governments not to be playing politics with pay equity. We've just seen that federally, where the government has tried to put in pay equity cutbacks into its federal economic statement. But we're asking you that that kind of politicking be placed aside, that we look at it as a human right, and that you start with all your ministries to be engaging in economic and social planning, which constantly looks at measures which can close the gender pay gap, which can increase women's incomes in this province and allow women to compete on an equal basis as men and to have the same resources in order to face this fiscal crisis. We ask you to do this. This is a matter of fairness. It is a human right, and we are asking you, Premier, to respect the human rights of the women in this province. Thank you.